This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so we're recording. So again, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this beautiful Thursday morning. I know that after the storms we had yesterday, it's kind of nice change in weather. Sheriff, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day this morning to join us and answer some questions. If you'd like, so I'll turn the floor over to you, and you can say a few words to kick it off.
Sure, we'll appreciate the opportunity in the chamber to be able to connect with chamber members and others and put out any information that we have. You may know as much as we know. But of course, today took effect the governor's stay safer at home in lieu of stay home order at 5 p.m., which essentially the biggest change is that non-essential businesses in the past that are or could provide non-essential or essential goods that are non-essential businesses now can reopen, but they must practice both 50% of whatever the fire marshal allows can be their max occupancy, and they must maintain the social distancing of 6 foot in between and practice all sanitation rules. As far as churches and the things that fall up under non-work related gatherings, those are still the same rules. You can do drive-up services. No more than 10 can be present at a funeral or in a church service or in activities that are non-working gatherings, just as they were before. The biggest difference is that you basically just converting the non-essential businesses to the same rules as the essential businesses. And then you'll see some government things start to, as we move forward, transition back to business as normal, hopefully. I read, as you may have in the Gadsden Times this morning, where our courthouse, where you go to get your driver's license, tag receipts, pay your property taxes, where the probate judge's office is across the road from our judicial building, where we have regular criminal and civil court, is planning to reopen Monday morning. I believe at 8 a.m. They're going to require temperature checks and have a hand sanitation station and have the squares to where people can get to their prospective business place within the probate office and the courthouse, practicing social distancing. The courthouse or the judicial building that's adjacent to the sheriff's office here, we're still waiting on the presiding circuit judge, who's waiting on the chief justice to decide when the unified judicial system will return to court as usual. That's predicted, not in stone, to possibly be the 18th of May, meaning I think the 15th might be a Friday at 5 o'clock, like today's safer at home order, when that will take effect. And then it would be Monday the 18th before we would see people return inside the courthouse and see jury summons and things of this nature start to come back to be normal business. In the meantime, people that need protection orders or things from the circuit clerk have been still obtaining that on an as needed appointment basis. We're fortunate to report at the sheriff's office that to this point, knock on wood heavily, even though we have one of the largest jails in the state, that we've dodged any COVID cases, and we're so thankful of that. Our count, to give you an idea, in the jail, even though it's one of the largest, we usually run 850 to 900. Our count this morning is 551. It's been less than 600 for the last 45 days, which is astonishing. It hasn't been that low in 10 or 11 years. One of the reasons is our ICE immigrants are down because the border's been closed off, and those things aren't as regular as usual. And pistol permits that we provide to the public, we're still servicing those online. You can pay for them online. If you want to get a permit and not pay the $3 convenience fee as usual, that's always there for online for you to receive it in the mail and not have to come in, you can print it off and mail a check, and no postage will mail it back to you, and you can avoid the $3 convenience fee. I do believe in the end, talking from a business standpoint here at the courthouse, the sheriff's office, and the judicial building, that some positives that's came out of this is people have been forced and have learned how convenient it is to do some business online, even at the probate office or the revenue clerk's office, or with pistol permits with us. And that could diminish traffic in the future, even after things are back to normal, if they ever get there. So those are some positives that have came out of this. some of the trends that it's forced to happen. We thought we'd have an increase in domestic calls because people are forced to be at home with one another. We haven't saw that, thankfully. We've had a reduction in crime, and I think that's because we learn a lot of times when people commonly report their lawnmower or their jewelry where somebody broke into their home or took something of theirs. Well, guess what? They've been at home, so they're not there to have their stuff stolen during the day. So those have been good changes. So we haven't seen really a big influx in crime. We've probably seen a reduction in it during this period of time, which is, I'm happy to report. And we're just sort of waiting to see how we're going to transition here at the sheriff's office. And hopefully that will be pretty soon in letting people back in the door to do pistol permit business and the things that we do as usual. Those things being said, if anybody has any question about the safer at home in accordance or comparison to what was safe or stay in place, I'd be open to any of those questions or anything, Will, that any participants may think of. I'll just stop there and go by anybody's question or guidance.
Okay. We don't have any questions submitted yet. I'll ask one though, just to start it going. So what are some things that you guys at the Sheriff's Department have had to change or kind of adapt to during all this? So I'm sure you can't just carry on like normal. What are some changes you guys have had to implement?
Well, differently than people that are non-essential, we were classified in the beginning, of course, in law enforcement, first responders, medical care providers as essential employees. So the jail, as you could imagine, employee-wise, we've just had to employ or deploy heavy use of PPE. We've used a lot of masks. We've used a lot of hand sanitizer. We've used a lot of smocks, gowns, just ordinary PPE equipment. Everybody has experienced a shortage of that. We have had to spend some money and go into sources and procuring our own mask, and that's been a task, but we've been able to fortunately accomplish that. We anticipate getting those funds reimbursed through FEMA, the federal EMA. We were the recipients, fortunately, of a $58,000 and change coronavirus supplemental grant that allowed us to purchase airless printers and the mechanisms we needed to operate essentially, if we had to, some of us from home, so that we can maintain social distance from one another at work. And we've been able to accomplish and not see any reduction in what we've been able to accomplish in our duties. So that's a good thing. The jail has been trying. Currently, though, we're sitting with a surplus now of what we feel like the next phase, as has been deemed by the EMA, the Emergency Management Agency, in which Deborah Gaither has did a phenomenal job. One thing I'd like to say is that I can't say enough about how government leaders, regardless of their political stances or their personal agendas, they have all worked tremendously well together. Everybody's pitched in and did and shared and helped, and the group VOAD, and I don't want to get on a rabbit trail, volunteers for times of disasters, has been just phenomenal. Craig Scott, the library guy, calls himself, and what they've been able to do and the people they've helped and things I've seen have been amazing. But we basically patrol the jail. They've had to work the same shifts, the same schedules as they always have. We have took non-emergency reports over the phone, where we've only responded in person when it was necessary. We've tried to identify deputies on shift that would have the PPE to make that response so that we can conserve it and not waste it. There's been a lot of things like that. We ended up having to develop a 20-something page emergency coronavirus standard operational procedure manual for investigations, administrations, corrections, and patrol division that would allow us to accomplish these things in a uniform manner and conserve our PPE, but yet provide the same level of service to the citizens. And everybody's helped to do that. And we've seen no lack of being able to be efficient, but we do look forward to, opening back up. And if people choose to not buy their pistol permit online, they'll be able to come in and do that. We look to soon be open and available to do that, maybe even as soon as Monday, just practicing social distancing and moving forward from here.
Yeah, I mean, it's been difficult on everyone to adapt and kind of pivot to adapt to all this. But you guys are doing a great job. I'm sure. Appreciate all that you guys do. Do we have any more questions at this time? Anybody? Okay. We have two pop up here. So from Emily. There we go. Let's see here. So Emily Carter asks, do you have any plans as to when active shooter training for schools will resume? Who should we be in contact with for that? Are there any online training or resources that are available until you resume in-person trainings?
We are still, we have the run, hide, and fight that our school resource officers predominantly get out and teach. As you know, schools, and we have 13 school resource officers. And during this time that school's been down, those school resource officers fortunately have been available to help people like manna and nutritional programs to deliver, because they were down on volunteers that couldn't get out to get those meals to the elderly and people that need it. We're still, if we get an opportunity when things can be to the place that people can gather 10 or more, those things will be available as always. There has been a few things so far that we generally do and have continued to do that we had to sort of kind of put on hold, and we'll reevaluate when the things open back up, such as our Student Leadership Academy. It had to be put on hold this year, just like high school graduation was put on hold for the schools. But in the meantime, if we get to the place that we can teach 10 or more, then we'll be back out in the field, going to businesses, churches, schools, teaching those things. As you know, school's out, they've already graduated, so we've got until next school begins to get back into that mode, except to work and be prepared for when that day comes. We do and have had to put our RAD, which is a self-defense class, and some other things, our Citizens Firearms Academy. Fortunately, those things during this time were not scheduled yet. So hopefully, as soon as this is over, there'll be no interruption in those services.
Fantastic. Thank you. Let's see. Carl Brady asks, one of his responsibilities at East Alabama Works is to explore the possibility of technical training programs for people who are incarcerated in county jails. They have some good programs in state prisons. What are your thoughts on technical training at the county jail level, things like carpentry, welding, electrical, etc.?
Man, that's I'm glad Carl brought that up. We've actually got a meeting this afternoon. The annex building that was built beside the sheriff's office as I was coming into office and wasn't completed and even available for occupancy, and the fire marshal and all the necessary entities had signed off just a couple of weeks ago. So it's now occupiable. That's a 112 bed facility. After many of you seen, and I just throw it out there, the 60 days in, we learned that we only had one female unit. Now we have 3 female units. We have that we can declassify or classify, that we're not letting people that wrote bad checks spend the night in the same cell as people that had committed horrendous crimes, for example. So we've now got 2 classifications of female units. That 3rd unit, and the reason why I'm bringing this up about the females, will be the impact program for females, while the annex building will be 112 beds for the impact program for males. Our judge is already, presiding circuit judge Ogletree, and our judicial judges have already started sentencing people to the impact program. There's 2 different varieties of that. There's the short program, which is 10 days. There's the long program, which is 70 days. Both are followed up. The short program with 30 days of what's called day reporting. The 70 days followed up with 60 days of day reporting. Day reporting, and this will come together for you in a moment, I'm not just mumbling. Day reporting is where, after you're released from the impact program, if it's phase 1, 10 days, these are for people 21 and younger, first time offense, sort of kind of just sound a warning alarm. You're on the wrong path. If it's alcohol, if it's drugs, if it's domestic violence, whatever that might be, we want to take that 10 days and educate them on not to continue on that road. If it's the more hardened criminal, but yet not violent, then the 70-day programs for the little more hard abuser, or the one that's had ups and downs and been in and out. And we put them in this program with one opportunity. In the annex building, for example, we don't serve daily meals. We serve a buffet. So the first guy in line knows he's got to save enough food for the last guy in line. We've connected with people like the Fatherhood Initiative program, Gadsden State, programs like Carl's talking about. We're designing this, but fixing to begin it. And it'll be a test and go the first 12 weeks or the first 70 days that the people go through. as we put these programs together that they'll have to complete to graduate that program. It also gives them a separate learning environment over there to where there's no peer pressure. Beforehand, our jail's so overpopulated running the SOUT program. An example, you got 120 hardened criminals in a unit, 40 of them's in the SOUT program. Well, at 4 o'clock, when the instructors leave, from 4 till the next morning at 8, these people would face problems with the other inmates that weren't in the SOUT program that they were housed with. So it's given them a cleaner learning environment, the ability to help themselves with programs like what Carl's talking about and other programs that we have in line to be implemented and become a part of the impact program. And so we got big expectations for that. If you go into the impact program building, it's set up military style where there's 66 beds on the left side, 66 on the right side for a total of 112. On the left side will be for the people with a projector and classroom that want to just simply get a trade, such as auto, mechanic, body, plumbing, body work, this kind of thing. On the right side will be those that want to get an education, that's got a high school diploma and wants to advance that to an associate's, bachelor's, or whatever degree they might want to go. Just like when you come out of high school, you go left to I want to do something technical or something that takes educational, or you go right to where I want to do something that is a skill. We want to present and provide those same opportunities and a second chance in this impact program to not only get the people off of the substance and help them to deal with that, but to engage them with a career or a technical field that they can pursue outside of here. Once they've left here at the end of that program, the day reporting will come in. That's where we just simply take a deputy and manage outside resources. We're not teaching the substance abuse. We're seeing to it that they made the substance abuse class. Once they don't make their class, once they have a failure on a weekly drug test, once they don't abide by the rules, then they go back to the main jail and finish out their sentence. That choice is theirs. But that's what we're trying to provide, a way of rehabilitating and giving people an opportunity. And another great thing about the impact program, we have a lot of, as you will probably have been aware of, all of you, alternative sentencing programs. You've heard of things like court referral, community corrections, color code. An inmate gets out after doing SOUT, he's got 30 days to go to his alternative sentence, whether it be report to community corrections, color code, wherever that might be. He doesn't make the payment or he doesn't have the money. Then he falls in that cycle of failure to appear, failure to pay, and he ends right back in jail. And the SOUT program, part of the program is to connect them with the person that will be in charge of them before they exit the impact program. Go ahead and start that dialogue. Delay the payments that's due until they have a procurable job that can make those payments, and see to it that some of those things are shored up and give them a true opportunity to be successful. But the trick again is, we can't help them. They got to help themselves. But our goal in this is to take the impact center and give a true opportunity to change themselves, followed up with a day reporting, or keep them in the main jail where they just get 3 meals and a cot, and that's jail. So, we've got people already sentenced that's waiting for the opening of it. Their sentences state that they're not to be released until they complete the impact program at whatever level they were given. And so our opportunity that we're trying to complete right now is to get the impact center open. And we're right at the doorstep of doing that. So back to the original question and trying to give you an overall of what that's about, which here's a short place to do that and a lot to talk about. Carl, I'd love for you to get in touch with me or Chief Peak or someone and talk about being a part of that impact program with those ideas. Would be perfect for the fit.
Fantastic. We can't wait to see how that progresses for you guys. Up next, this is more FYI, but from Mr. T's, they've received a shipment of non-medical grade masks that the CDC and Governor Ivey encourage everyone to wear. They'll also be receiving a second shipment soon. You can contact them to purchase them for employers and employees. They're $5 each plus tax. Thanks for letting us know that, Natalie. Our next question comes from the Chamber's own Heather New. She said, we have received several calls from individuals and businesses that have concerns about other businesses not following the public health orders. What is your recommendation for the public to report order violations and what can be done?
Well, violations, and this is coming directly from what we received yesterday from the Attorney General's Law Enforcement Coordinator, Tommy Reese, so essentially the guidance from the Attorney General's office, is violations of the state health order or misdemeanors subject to a $500 penalty. but that if there are large-scale failures to comply of this new rule leads to increased COVID-19 transmission, the state may be forced to close the business. And those $500 fines, to my understanding, are for each day or each occurrence, so they can get quite, hefty. At this time, I know in the beginning, just openly speaking, we had questions about businesses that were inside the city limits of Gadsden, but yet within Etowah County. So most of the questions we've had are questionable businesses, and what they've been doing has been within the city of Gadsden. I know that without naming those businesses, there were a couple that were issued still warnings, and they adapted and they did what they should do. So with this new order coming into place, it's essentially letting the non-essential business follow the rules that the essential businesses have been following with the stay at home. And that's simply, I use Lowe's as an example because their numbers are so familiar to me. The fire marshal says Lowe's can't have more than 1,400 people in it. Well, 50% of that is the governor's order. So that's 700 people max occupancy. And then those 700 people at that particular business would have to be practicing social distancing. And there should be something in place to keep that number from going above 700 in that business's case. So whatever their fire occupancy is, they can occupy at 50% of that, and then they must be practicing social distancing. Of course, the district attorney at the end of the day would be the one that would decide whether or not those charges would be prosecutable or not. I'd like to say for the most part, yes, I know there's some businesses out there that's tried to do this and that, but for the most part, to my understanding, we've had cooperation. And but it'll be interesting to see it today at 5 o'clock. Essentially, those non-essential businesses will be able, following the rules of previous essential business rules, reopen.
And who do you suggest that someone calls if they have a concern about this?
It would be whatever jurisdiction. If it's a business in the city of Gadsden, then they would need to call the city of Gadsden. If it's a business in the county, call us. If it's in Etowah, call Etowah.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for that clarification. We have another question from Emily Carter as a follow-up to her first question. So as a non-traditional school, she works for the Gadsden Job Corps Center. We don't have a designated school resource officer. Who is the point of contact we should be using for the sheriff's department for things like trainings?
Well, the city of Gadsden doesn't have they have school resource officers, but they don't have them in the format we do. I believe they employ off-duty officers technically to be paid by the hour from a contractor or they subcontract to an individual that's contracted with the Board of Education to provide a police officer at the school. In the county, our school resource officers obviously are certified, and they go through continuous training, and they're assigned to that school permanently. We do it that way because we believe it's important for the deputy to develop a relationship with the kids at that particular school. I can't answer for Gadsden other than to say, from my knowledge, the Gadsden City Board of Education contracts their security to off-duty Gadsden police officers. So I would assume that you would either go to the City of Gadsden or Board of Education. We would like and will make available. We have taught run, hide, and fight upon request and different things of that nature with our instructors at City of Gadsden schools on request. We have a format that we carry out in the county schools. So if you're interested in run, hide, and fight or something of that nature at Job Corps or City of Gadsden school, contact us. We'll try to help you. But if you have concerns about school resources and your Gadsden City schools or whatever particular entity outside of the county, you need to contact Gadsden Police Department.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks for that answer. I don't have any more questions up here right now.
I would like to put out another piece of information that I told the EMA Director, Deborah Gaither, that I would put out Tuesday. That's this Tuesday, May the 5th, at East Gadsden United Methodist Church, which I believe is located over by the health department in East Gadsden, the newer health department. From 10 to 2 p.m., there will be a testing site that will be being provided by the Alabama Department of Public Health. There will be nurses there, differently than before. you will not be required to come with a doctor's order to be tested. If you have any symptom, basically, as I've been told, if you want to be tested, you can show up there from 10 to 2 and you're probably going to get tested. So that's available. There's no charge for it, I believe. The copay's waived, but that's East Gaston United Methodist Church from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. this coming Tuesday, May the 5th.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks for that information.
And just to go over overall numbers to date before this webinar, total tested statewide was 87,364. Total positive test in Alabama was 6,943, but in Etowah County, it's 139. We've had 9 deaths that have been confirmed to be COVID, even though there's rumors of more. That's how many's been confirmed, and 267 deaths statewide.
Awesome. Thanks for those statistics. Do we have any more questions? There we go. Oh, Heather News says we appreciate you. Yes, we did appreciate you, Sheriff. Thank you so much for taking the time this morning.
Thank you for inviting me to. If we can help any further, my cell phone's 256-312-0410. The non-emergency number at the Sheriff's Office is 256-546-2825. I'd also like to mention to everyone, coming here within the next week, we have a new app you can look for. It'll be free for Droid and iPhone. It's full of information. We can do push notifications. And so keep an eye out for that. It's free of charge, and that'll be a tremendous tool for us to get out a lot of good information. And you can interact with us as well on it, give compliments or complaints. So we appreciate the opportunity to speak to you.
Okay. And what is that app called?
It's called the Etowah County Sheriff's app. It's through the company called Sheriff's app. And it'll be downloadable. There'll be instructions. You basically click on it when we put it on our social media link, and it'll come directly to your Droid or iPhone.
Okay, awesome. We'll have to check that out. Do we have any more questions or comments? Let's see. Not sure if there's a question you can answer, but were the two deaths in the jail COVID related?
No COVID related cases reported yet in the jail. Certainly no deaths of COVID in the jail. No.
Okay. So any more questions or comments? Going once, going twice. I don't see any more. So we'll wrap it up then. Ashley Dean says thank you guys. So thank you, Sheriff, from Ashley Dean. But again, thank you all for coming out this morning to the Ask the Sheriff webinar. Sheriff, appreciate your time very much. I know your busy schedule, busy man, taking the time to come speak to everybody. Really appreciate your willingness to always present. I'm going to turn off the webinar really quick.
All right, thank you, sir. Y'all have a great week.